and welcome to series 4, episode 9 of In Suspense, a vodcast and podcast for fans and writers of crime fiction. And today is our Christmas special, as you can tell if you're watching from the Christmas get-up. Oh yes, and there is extra Christmas jumpers going on. And we thought, since it's our Christmas special, we would change our format slightly. And instead of Leslie and I doing our introduction, we would just have our guests with us all the way through. So I'd very much like to welcome Vic Watson and Simon Bewick to In Suspense. Welcome.
Ooh, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Are you all ready for Christmas?
No.
Yes, it says here on my planner that Lauren's kindly given me, welcome and festive chat. So I've just put mince pies, ? Christmas trees, ? Presents. Are we all done with our presents? No?
All the presents bought, but we're not doing Christmas decorations this year, which is causing great grief in our house.
What?
Yeah, well, half of our house is being demolished at the moment, so it felt a bit silly to put a Christmas tree up among the rubble.
Yes,
I'm not putting a big tree up this year, or a tree up at all, actually, because we're in rented accommodation at the moment and we haven't quite got room for our normal tree. So I've bought one of those white twig tree things. You know.
I've got one of them.
And it's quite pretty, actually. It's got little lights embedded in it, and it's fine. It's okay.
I wanted to use the multiple books that I have to make one of those fabulous book trees, but I have neither time nor room for this, so it will just exist in my head.
I just think if I tried that, it wouldn't look anywhere near as good as they look online, and it would just look like a big stack of books. So I have not bothered myself.
Yeah. I'm one of those people, I've got like great ideas in my head, never work out.
I'm the same.
And I'm not at all practical, really, with things like that. So, I mean, also, in the past, I've always had my sons or their girlfriends or wives to help me do the lights on the Christmas tree, because Rashid and I are hopeless with lights. And they kind of, you know how they wrap it all round and get it all looking just so. I put it on, it just looks like a dog's dinner, you know. So, anyway.
Well, I've got a 2-year-old to help me decorate my Christmas tree this year, so that's going to be a bonus.
Oh, that would be lovely. I love your hat, Laurie. It looks so fluffy.
I just stole it from my son. He's like, get your own hat. So, just one less present for him this year.
Oh.
Can I just confess something? I've never had a mince pie.
What?
I don't like them, don't worry.
And I had a fight with my vegetarian friend 2 years ago where she was eating a mince pie and I was going, mince, and she's going, mince, and it went on for a little while and somebody went, why are you just shouting mince at each other? I didn't realise that it wasn't mince like meat.
Oh, really? Although I think some of them originally did have suet in, didn't they? So
apparently
I think my mum makes it with suet.
I love a mince pie. In fact, I have to admit, I have just had 2 mince pies and some raspberry and white chocolate and pistachio ice cream.
Wow.
That's me, I'm a greedy cow. But and I like Stollen as well. Stollen's nice, a good slice of Stollen. But I suppose I better introduce. Do you think is it time for me to introduce these 2 guests? Probably.
Yes, do so, yes.
So really, for those who don't know, Simon Bewick and Vic Watson are the dazzling duo who, when did you start? Was it Newcastle Noir in the bar? Was it in 2019 or was it before then?
No, I've been running Noir at the bar in Newcastle since 2016.
Oh, tell us how it started and how it's developed and where you are kind of now, really.
Noir at the bar actually started in Philadelphia in, I think it was 2009, with a chap called Pete Rozovsky, but his format was very different to the one that I used in Newcastle. He used to interview writers, whereas what I've always done is have guests read about 5 minutes of their work. I've done it at Harrogate a few times as well. And we always seem to pack out our venues, but unfortunately once 2020 came, I did actually do one in February 2020, which is where I met Simon, but once March happened, there was no way we were getting into packed venues anytime soon, so we took it online. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without SB.
And so how did that all come about, the sort of moving it online? Because you both really blazed the path for Zoom events when most of us were still in our PJs, necking wine from the bottle and treating every day like it was Christmas. And you guys had your stuff together pretty well. So how did that all come about?
Simon?
Well, I'd actually been working with a physical festival, and when lockdown happened, I suggested we do it online, but they didn't seem too keen to do that. And the next week I saw Vic had put out on Facebook, who I'd met like 3 weeks before, I think, and she'd ignored me once in the supermarket between those times, just completely blanked me. So
it's like, who's that creep? He keeps staring at me. I don't know who he is.
And it was because I had a mask on. And of course, this was before the pandemic. So I just happened to be wearing a mask. That's just how I roll. So Vic had put a message out on Facebook saying, would anybody be interested if this were to happen online? My background is working in publishing, marketing. And for the company that I work with, we'd actually ran our first online webinar. It would have been 12 years ago now. So I'd been doing webinars for quite a long time. And I said, well, I'll give it a go if you need some help with it. Thinking, it's only going to be a couple of weeks,
We all thought that, didn't we?
Exactly.
Here we are 2 years later.
Yeah. So that was how it started, really. We kind of pretty much met online, really, didn't we? And talked about how that show might go from the physical, being in a bar with 10 authors coming along to read, to taking that onto an online presence.
Yeah, and I do remember the first week, I don't know, we're doing something and you said, oh, don't worry, I'll just pop round to yours and I'll have a look at it. And I was horrified, and then I realised you were actually joking.
It's become really successful as well, obviously. So did that surprise you? Did you ever expect it to grow into what it has done?
No, like Simon says, I think we thought we were going to do it for about between 2 and 4 weeks, and I just got really over enthusiastic and carried away and was emailing authors left, right and centre saying, would you do a reading, and then before we knew it, we were booked up to August.
And I must say that I thought we were talking about a monthly thing, and Vic said, right, we've got the next one next Wednesday. What are we going to... And I was like, that's 6 days from now. So it was a very, very fast turnaround for those first 22 weeks that we ran the show. So it was kind of, we do the show on a Wednesday. We get all the invites out to the authors that Vic had lined up for the following week on the Thursday, with all the joining instructions and really just an explanation how it worked. Because even within 2 years, I think we forget, at that point, everyone was so nervous about using Zoom, and so many people hadn't used it. So we really had to produce crystal clear instructions and really non-techie versions of this. And then we'd have the rehearsals on the Sunday, and then we'd be doing all the promotional stuff for it, and then we'd do the show, we'd get the recording done, and then it was Thursday again. And this just went on for 22 weeks. So,
not to mention the legendary after parties that as a guest of the show I know all about.
Yes.
It really did snowball, didn't it? It was amazing. And of course you do it so professionally, I must say, with your sort of skills with IT and everything. I mean, it's so slick. It's perfect. But of course, we didn't actually say, we were talking about sort of how it started, the Newcastle virtual noir at the bar. And of course, now it's sort of morphed into something else, hasn't it? Something called Bay Tales. So do you want to sort of explain, because I was going to ask that earlier, how did it sort of suddenly morph into, or gradually morph into Bay Tales?
Sure. Well, if I start and explain, and then you jump in when I get it wrong, Vic. So we got to, in all seriousness, we got to the end of August, and it really was that level of output every week. It was really just too much to sustain when you had real jobs and so on. I mean, I just started my own consultancy company and so on. And Vic had a little thing running around it.
Not running around back then.
It was just starting.
A baby.
He was just starting to do it that
baby.
Oh, I meant a husband. But But by the time we got to the end of the August, we said we can't really keep this going. I mean, we had enough authors and publisher interest, but we decided we'd do 2 specials. So we did the Halloween special, which got our biggest audience ever. I mean, there we had everybody that can write that was around, really. Ian Rankin and I mean, it was just an incredible turnout for that, and it felt like a nice way to finish things. Then we did Christmas special, but in the meantime, we built a website, baytales.com.
You built a website. I'm not giving any credit for it. You did all the hard work.
I mean, it was people like that. I mean, the 2 of you that were contributing things for that we were able to get, not just the old shows, so all the recordings on there, but we've got over 50 short stories on there, loads of non-fiction, Hall of Fame, author profiles, and all of that sort of good stuff, competitions and so on. And really, I think it was one of our later shows, wasn't it, that Anne Cleves had said, well, actually, that's jumping forward.
I was going to say that was once we started the show, so we sort of closed 2020 off, I think, in the hope that VNATB would no longer be needed, and decided to run Bay Tales as what Simon originally thought was going to be. It was a monthly thing. So we did our first Bay Tales show during lockdown in 2021 with Peter James. And it was our 3rd show that Anne Cleves said, but eventually this will be in real life, won't it? And we were like, yeah, why not, Anne? Sure. And she's been an absolute tour de force in terms of encouraging us to keep going online, but also set up our first in-person event, which we're doing in February, on February the 12th next year in Whitley Bay.
Yeah, we're gonna come on and talk about that in a little while, aren't we, Lauren? Did you have another question, Lauren, on that, or am I?
Well, I was going to ask, actually, because we are still quite a long way from normal, but there have been like live events. But my question was, do you think there'll always be a place for virtual events now in our future, regardless of what happens?
I really love the virtual events personally for me, because I can do my work sitting in my house, which is great. But also, we've reached people that we couldn't reach in a bar in Newcastle. Nobody's going to come from Canada for 3 hours in a bar in Newcastle. We've had people watching us. We used to have a crew in New Zealand who would get up at 6 o'clock every Wednesday. Well, it would be their Thursday morning to watch Virtual Noir at the bar.
Wow.
We couldn't do that with a live in-person event. So we've had authors join us who wouldn't be able to do that, and I really think in terms of reach and who we get to work with, it is very different in terms of having a virtual presence. And personally for me, I'd be more than happy to continue with virtual events alongside in-person things. I don't know about you, Simon.
Well, I mean, as I say, from my background, the virtual events weren't something that came out of lockdown. They were something that we've been doing. I used to work for Oxford University Press. So a lot of the educational seminars that we were doing, they had to have a worldwide reach. So that was why we started doing webinars for teacher training and teacher development and so on, way back. And it was just a natural thing to do, because otherwise it was just uneconomical and unrealistic. And as Vic says there, just as teachers in the remotest parts of Italy or, Slovenia or Brazil could all tune into the same session or multiple sessions over a day. I think there'll definitely be a place for virtual events in the future, because people have seen what good value for, when I say people, publishers or authors or people like us have seen what good value for money it is in terms of getting to people. And I think it's also good that it's, if you do a physical event, it's there and it's gone. And if you're there on the day, great. But if you weren't, if you had to miss it for whatever reason, whereas for authors, it's that extra bang for your buck, because the events are there or can be made there online afterwards. So, throughout Virtual Noir at the Bar, we had, I think I've just put up some figures somewhere, over the 22 shows, we had, 10, I think it was, how many, sorry?
10,000 attendees.
Wow.
10,000 attendees. Yeah. But how many of those were then watching it on video on demand on the website afterwards? We had 15,000 additional views on demand the days after it was put up there. So I think there's definitely a place for it in the future, but it's to do a really hybrid event, a live event that is also beamed out or made available online, is it's not 1 + 1 = 2 in terms of complexity or cost to do that. It is actually quite complex, and you need a bigger team to be filming it and editing it and broadcasting it in a professional way. And some of the festivals have really done that well already. I think Bloody Scotland earlier this year did a good combination of that, for example.
I hope that festivals do continue to do some form of hybrid, because I mean, I know the author Penny Batchelor has been, there was an article in this week's Bookseller, wasn't there? Because it's not just people from different countries that can attend. It makes it much more accessible for people with disabilities, doesn't it? And she's written an interesting article in the Bookseller about that this week, and is sort of urging festival organisers to not sort of, to carry on with hybrid.
We found a lot of the crime fiction fans, or a good proportion of them are female. And I've had people say to me over the course of Bay Tales and VNAT Bay, I wouldn't have felt comfortable walking into a bar in the centre of town on my own at 7:30 on a Wednesday night, but I can access this and feel comfortable. And we have had quite a few comments like that. And like you say, the accessibility issues, it's accessible regardless of geography, disability, and a slew of other things as well.
And how important, sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say that the technology is moving on so quickly, that you can put closed captions on there so easily. And they're not perfect, but they're 80% there, and it so again, that's improving the accessibility issues as well, I think.
And as well as being great value for audiences and people who tune in to listen and watch, what's the benefit for authors? Why do you think it's important for authors to participate in events like Bay Tales?
I think authors have made some really strong connections. So although you might go to, say, Harrogate, we had a great time at Harrogate this year, that's 3 or 4 days out of the year that you get to meet your contemporaries and strike up some conversations and that kind of thing. With VNAT Bay, like Lauren said earlier, if you were on the same show with 9 other authors, there was the opportunity afterwards to meet and just decompress, have a drink if you wanted to, have very, very bizarre conversations at times until the early hours of the morning. But it's forming those links, and even authors who weren't reading, they would come and join in the chat. They would be in the audience, and they, again, would be forging links with readers and authors all the time. And we provided that over a course of 22 weeks, and now provide it on a monthly basis, as well as running book launches for publishers and their authors as well. So it's a bit like social media in a way, isn't it, Simon?
I think the two are very closely linked. I mean, it's certainly a number of authors told us they saw a bump in their sales, and particularly if their book were just about to come out. We had a number of authors who appeared on either, as Vic says, I think we've done about 8 author launches this year for publishers, so that's tended to be at the point when books have come out. But we also had a number of authors during VNAT Bay or Bay Tales who have appeared the day before the book has come out, or they've said they've really seen a spike when they're looking at their figures. And I think the social media side of it, because we promote the events quite heavily and we'll always be using tags and so on, people that are following us can then, and our following isn't huge compared to some of the authors that appear on the show, but it's a gateway, and they can say, oh, right, I'll follow, Leslie or Lauren or whatever. And that comes back to us as well. Sometimes an author will say, I was on Bay Tales, so we get more followers. So I think it helps. A lot of people have said it really has expanded their reading universe, because they might have come to a show because Anne Cleves was on, but they saw 9 other authors who they mightn't have heard of before, and decide they're going to check them out because they like the reading. So for the author, I think it's the skill of obviously the writing and the quality of the book, but it's the personality of the author that comes out as well, and the way that they read and the enthusiasm that they have for it that really often gets new readers on board for them.
And what I like about it is kind of non-hierarchical, isn't it? So all authors, you've got, very well-known, really famous, really sort of multi-million selling copies. And then you've got debut authors. I think you've got, people who are just at the beginning, and people who maybe aren't even published yet, who are on the beginning. So it's a very non-hierarchical format, which I love.
That's the only reason we did it, really, so that we could read some of our stuff. And
and you did, and it was great.
I really loved about what I love about the Bay Tales shows is that it feels really friendly. And I met at Harrogate Leah Middleton, and I was said to her, we were on Bay Tales together, weren't we? And she was like, no, we weren't. I was like, we were. I was there. I was definitely there. I remember you doing your reading. I was definitely there. And then I realised I was just one of the audience. But because you do all the chatting with the comments box, you feel like you're there. You feel like you're part of it. So it was quite embarrassing. It was a real digging my own grave moment. But
I have to admit that, I started off my publishing life nearly 30 years ago as a sales consultant, so visiting lots of places and booksellers and so on. So I've got a reasonable eye for faces. But it's something like Harrogate when you go for the first time and someone would say, remember me, I was on Virtual Noir at the bar and we had 250 authors on and, I said, sorry, I don't actually, I lie quite convincingly, but most...
You are a wonderful liar.
Thank you, I think. Sales and marketing.
Yes.
In all honesty, I am not good with faces. So when people were like, hi, I'm just like, yes, hello, lovely to see you again. Please don't ask me to remember.
I happened to be standing next to you both at a party in Harrogate where you first pitched an idea, which you've already mentioned a bit of, Vic, but it is going to be a live event, not virtual, but actually an in-person event, which is happening on the 12th of February at Whitley Bay. So can you tell us a bit more about that? Where it sort of all come from, and what's it going to be like? Can you tell us some of the names of the people that are going to be there?
We've got two right here. Lovely Leslie and lovely Lauren. Super exciting. So basically, Simon did all the pitching that weekend. I stood there and smiled and nodded and went, would you like a piece of paper? So it's a one-day event in Whitley Bay in February. And what we'd like to do is, and it's all Anne Cleves' fault, obviously, we've asked publishers to send their best and brightest crime authors to us to chat across a number of panels about their writing, about adaptations for TV, about location and setting and themes in their books. So I will actually be moderating a panel with Leslie Cara, Lauren North and Nikki May, and I'm super excited about that. But what we're trying to do is make it a little bit different. So after the actual event at the Playhouse, we're going to have a little private party at our local independent bookshop. The Bound are going to open up for us, but just for people who've been in the audience and our authors. And we are actually also arranging a meal for our participants, and the first 100 ticket buyers were also invited as well. So Simon, do you want to expand on that a bit? Do you want to say who's coming?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of it really has grown out of having that relationship with the publishers. So that they've had, Vic was representing us at the Future Books Event of the Year Awards last year for Virtual Noir at the bar. And so we were finalists in that against the likes of the Sunday Times, the Cheltenham Festival, and so on, so really batting above our weight division, fighting against our weight division, really. But I think that we have built up a good reputation with the publishers. So when we put that idea to them to say, this event in Whitley Bay, which, some people know Viera country, it's a lovely northeast seaside town. It's going to be it's impressive. I come from the area. I lived away for 30 years. I've only been back up here 2 years. That's part of where Bay Tales came from, the name, because we both live, within a mile of Whitley Bay. Yeah. And it's a fantastic venue. So it's a huge venue, but we wanted to get somewhere really big so people weren't feeling, we've got no intention of selling out the entire place. but it's enough space for people to be comfortable there. It's 6 panel sessions, 5 of which are fiction, 1 of which is non-fiction. So in the non-fiction session, we've got Dr. Richard Shepherd, who's the UK's leading forensic pathologist. And his first book,
Unnatural Causes.
Unnatural Causes, which was an incredible read. And of course, he's got his new book out now, The 7 Stages of Death. He's going to be doing the non-fiction section. And then throughout the day, as Vic says, Anne was a real driving force behind Anne Cleves. So we asked Anne if she'd kick off the day and said...
Because she's a Whitley Bay local as well. She lives in Whitley Bay.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And so Anne's kicking off the day with Wasim Khan, and they're going to do our opening in conversation. I'm then doing the moderation for a session with Trevor Wood, Olivia Kiernan, and Amen Along. And that's kind of looking at, Trevor's books are based in Newcastle, Amen's based in London, Olivia in Dublin. So it's looking at the influence of locations on the book and a whole lot more as well. So that's where we're starting off. We've got Howard Linsky chairing a session with, on that session, it's Githa Lodge. It's, again, what we're trying to do is say not just the books that are already out there and so on, but what are the biggest debuts going to be? So for that panel, we've got Amy McCulloch with her new book, Breathless, which was one of the big titles that was promoted around Harrogate. You got Free Ice Screams with it, I think, it's set on a mountain. Tim Weaver's on that session. And who's the one I'm missing on that session?
Hey, Ruby?
Yes. So that's how many is that? 1, 2, 3. You talked about your
Simon and Schuster. So
yeah,
we've got Derek Farrell, who's going to be moderating the Simon and Schuster panel with Sarah Vaughan, whose Anatomy of a Scandal is going to be the lead title on Netflix next year. Louise Candlish, Russ Thomas.
So exciting.
One other one.
I think that's...
It's like a memory game, because we've got 20. It's like, was it the Generation game where you had to say that's the thing?
Oh, yeah, all the thing. Yeah.
It feels a bit like that, and I always miss someone, which is dreadful. But yeah, it is about having
day, isn't it?
Yeah, so exciting. And I've been talking to people this week at our local library, and it's really exciting to be, because people know who Anne Cleves is. Somebody was saying to me today, I've read Wasim Khan, he's great, and Howard Linsky, yeah, but it's really lovely actually to be introducing them to new writers. So somebody was telling me they'd been reading Nikki Smith recently, and I said, if you like Nikki Smith, you like Leslie Carr. And she said, I've read The Rumour. And I said, you love Lauren North. And I gave her a little pitch of Safe at Home, and she was like, right, I'm going to take this leaflet and I'm going to get this book. I was like, you are welcome.
This is why we love you, Vic.
Yes, you are so good at that.
And you, Simon. I love you too.
We were at the Living North Christmas Fair, so we've been in the Christmas spirit for about a month now. We had 4 days. We had a stand there. Living North have been fabulous in their support for us, I have to say. So we've been popping leaflets up all over the place, and Living North have been very kind sponsors with us, and they gave us a stand at the Christmas Fair. So we were there for 4 days with Michael Bublé. He wasn't on the stand.
He wasn't there.
Anne Cleves and Trevor Wood were, but I felt as if Michael Bublé was there after 4 days of Christmas music. But because your publishers have been very, very kind in giving us a few copies of your books, I think I can probably pitch your books better than you can for 30 seconds because we were just telling everyone that came to the stand, because we were lucky enough to have a few, and you'd both been on Bay Tales, of course, so we knew a bit about them. But we're doing lots of other things during the day as well. There'll be surprises. I think if you've been to the Bay Tales show or the Virtual Noir show, you'll know we try to do a bit, and always do a bit more. So there'll be video shows on there of some of the publishers' biggest titles coming out in 2022. We've got a Money Can't Buy raffle. We're going to try and do that as a bit of a hybrid thing, because I have to say, it's Vic and I doing this, all of it. So we haven't got the resource to make this a hybrid event. So we kind of think we've done 2 years of online. This is going to be a strictly live physical event. But to try and take an element of that online, we're going to be doing a raffle. One raffle will be at the venue, one raffle will be online. And that's where some of the authors and publishers have given away money can't buy prizes. So we will be talking a bit more about that. But...
And I think it's important to say, because Simon probably won't say this, we did a charity, or Simon put together a charity anthology when we're doing Noir at the Bar, and proceeds from that went to NHS charities. So as always looking for it on his shelf, it's usually on mine. As part of the raffle, we'll be supporting our local lifeboat charity as well. Because
lovely.
We want to give something back. And again, because it's Bay Tales, we're in Whitley Bay, we want to do something to support RNLI, because they do really important work around our area, don't they?
Fantastic. Well, you've certainly sold it to us, and I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm allowed to watch as well as participate.
Absolutely.
You absolutely are.
We've got a green room and everything. We've got the front row just for authors.
Yeah. And one thing.
Sorry, can I just say that is one thing, I think, because a lot of the authors that are appearing, some of you come from the same publishers, but a lot of you know each other anyway. And my sense is, when we do Virtual Noir at the Bar, we always just say, if you have to get off after you've done your reading, you can. We know people have got children to put to bed or drinks to be drunk or whatever it might, maybe both, maybe both. But the number of authors that would stay on till the very end because they wanted to hear everyone else's. And I think that is something that we're really keen with this festival as well, because there are debut authors, there are internationally best-selling authors, there are award winners and so on. And I think people are just interested in what other people are saying. And it's a discussion, and it's going to be a wide-ranging discussion. And I think it should be really good fun.
Well, you two must be so very busy, but I'm sure that you must be very avid readers yourselves to have this great interest in crime and fiction generally. So can you tell us what you've been sort of reading lately, or what your sort of top books are for 2021? Have you got anything you want to share with our listeners and viewers?
I really loved D.L. Marshall's first 2 books, so Anthrax Island and the latest one, Black Run, featuring John Tyler. They're not really the kind of books I would necessarily read because they're quite actiony, but I have really, really enjoyed those. And probably one of my favourites this year has been Hostage by Claire McIntosh.
Oh yeah.
Although I'm not sure I'll ever get on an aeroplane again.
Oh God, no.
I don't think any of us think we'll get on an aeroplane again.
No, for many reasons. I think the one that freaked me out the most was Blackstoke by Rob Parker.
I've just written that down, Vic. That's my one.
Yes.
Thanks, Vic. And what about you, Simon? What are your picks for 2021?
So my 2021 picks, I mean, the big ones, I thought Stephen King's Billy Summers was excellent. I'm really enjoying Stephen King's non-horror work over recent years. But I don't think he really needs my push. Anna Bailey, Tall Bones, I thought it was a great book. Bullet Train, Katara Isaka was a book that I literally read in one day. Winter Counts, which we were lucky enough to do the debut launch for by.
It was so lovely.
That was an amazing panel because the guests that popped on as well, James DeLargy was on there with us, Crosby, and it was just such a wonderful panel as well. But that was a great book, Winter Counts. I really enjoyed that, and also Anthony Horowitz, but Derek Farrell, actually, who you mentioned earlier, who's going to be moderating one of our sessions. His book Death at Duke's Halt I really, really enjoyed as well. Falling, I enjoyed. You mentioned Hostage. I think it's a bit like film. Sometimes you'll get 2 books come out very, very close together that have got quite similar themes. And Falling got a lot of publicity this year by TJ Newman, but that was a rip-roarer as well.
Yeah. Fantastic. And what about you, Lauren?
Well, I've got 3 books. I'm not reading anything at the moment. I'm just too busy doing edits. But my 3 books of 2021 were The Perfect Lie by Jo Spain, which I really enjoyed, and The Last Thing to Burn by Will
That's one of
Dean.
mine.
I love that. I read that one in a day. And then Vic's already mentioned it, but actually as well, Blackstoke by Rob Parker, I think is probably the book that I talk a lot about, and probably one of the books I rave about a lot. So it's kind of book I keep trying to push in everyone's, like my brothers and like my family, like, we've got to read this, you've got to read this. So yeah, I think they're my 3 top books of the year. What about you, Leslie?
Well, I agree with all of those you've just said, but I think one of my favourites this year was Vine Street.
Oh, that's quite a recent one as well, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's very recent. That's epic. I mean, he is such a good writer. He's masterful prose by Dominic Nolan. I highly recommend that. I also loved Last Thing to Burn. I thought that was really, really well done. And I particularly enjoyed, and again, she doesn't need my endorsement or publicity, I'm sure, but Paula Hawkins' A Slow Fire Burning, I really enjoyed that one. I really did. I was quite sad to come to the end of it. I've only got a proof copy. I haven't got the final copy. But
but you've got the lovely sprayed edges, Leslie.
I've got the sprayed edges, yes. So that, but we've some great. Oh, and also, I think you mentioned, it was S.A. Crosby. Was it Razorblade Tears?
Yes.
I mean, that was phenomenal as well. Absolutely loved that. So there've been some absolute.
Can I also just say that just now before we started this call, I finished the last book in Trevor Wood's trilogy that started with The Man on the Street. So I've just finished the last book in that trilogy, which was really, really good.
Amazing. Some great books there, guys. So we're going to talk about the fun question of the show. We always like to ask our guests a little fun question. And because it's our Christmas special, obviously it's on the theme of Christmas. So we would love to know, what is the funniest or most unexpected present you've ever received at Christmas?
I can't think of a funny or unexpected gift, but I have 2 anecdotes to share with you.
Go.
When I was about 14, so my dad used to video record every Christmas. When I was about 14, my brother and I unwrapped a game, and it was a PC game, and at the time we didn't have a PC, and my dad went, "Oh, Winman," which is my mum, you've got the wrong format. And the video has perfectly captured me giving my mum the once over and just being like, oh. And then it turned out there was a PC hidden around the corner.
Oh, that's so nice.
And what a total shit of a kid I was. So, there's that one. But earlier in the library today, I was speaking to a rather elderly old lady who says she doesn't have children of her own. She has great nieces and nephews, and she's told them she doesn't want any presents this year. She can't have chockies because she's diabetic. She can't have, I don't know, something else, or body lotions because of skin condition. And she doesn't need any more sex toys. I was just like, okay.
You sent her a Bay Tales ticket.
I tried so hard.
Here's what you need.
I said, tell them to get you one of these.
It's better than sex.
Got it, Simon. And what's your present? What was your unexpected or funniest gift?
Okay, seeing as we're talking about what little shits we were as children, you started it.
Sorry.
Okay. When I was very, very little, probably it went on for a few years, but Santa Claus used to deliver all of the presents in one go, except for the presents from my auntie, who's a teacher who lived further down south. I am being age conscious here. And my auntie used to bring the present from Santa Claus up for us when she came to visit my granddad, her father, 4 days later. So there was always that one present left to get. And my family don't let me forget the year when they were all gathered around watching us open the present, and I opened up, which unfortunately was a book, and it was a mystery book. It was The Adventures of Tintin, and I'm so old they didn't have video cameras then, but there's just me opening it, going, no, throwing it away. So that wasn't great. Not my finest hour. My most unusual present, I think, was when my wife got me a place on a welding course.
Oh,
for Christmas. An artistic welding course, which I do actually have am I able to share the screen on this, or have you?
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say, I have the scars to prove.
Bring something.
I'll send you the image through of what I made, because I was very proud of my one and only welding sculpture that I made.
Amazing. And Leslie?
Well, lots of silly things when I was a child, but I mean, I think as an adult, I think the most unusual presents, we used to, when we lived in London, we used to have a big gang of friends. Well, they're still our friends, but we saw them more often because they're in London. And one of them used to get us sort of joke presents every year, and so we never knew what she was going to buy us. One year it was nuns costumes, so we're all dressed up like sort of nuns from The Sound of Music and singing and stuff, and she'd get us little sort of racing reindeers, and we'd have races. And then one year, for some unknown reason, she bought us all these horses' heads, so it was like a whole head mask, so you put it over your entire head, and it was just the most surreal moment, sort of looking round and taking pictures of everyone, and the room was just full of horses. It was a bit weird, but yeah. So I don't know how much alcohol had been consumed, but she always
during the purchase.
You've been watching The Godfather, or
horse heads, you wouldn't really associate them with Christmas, would you? But I will always remember that day. Yes. And what about you, Lauren? What's your funniest?
Mine, I thought at the time was really unexpected and weird, and then actually it all twigged. But I got for Christmas, for my 18th birthday Christmas, I got a little set of cutlery that hung on a little tree. And I was like, why has someone given me, my aunt? I was like, why is she giving me some knives, forks and spoons? I mean, I'm 18. When am I ever going to need them? I'm going off to university. They'll have cutlery in the lawns, which was where I was staying. And it turns out they were the best gift, because I did take them to university, and I realised that everyone either takes the cutlery or doesn't wash it up, and I was like, I've got my own. So it was actually a brilliant gift. But at the time I was like, what was she thinking? So now I buy people cutlery when they're going to university, always.
I do have a really unflattering photo from when I was about 17, and I was dressed head to toe in denim at Christmas on Christmas Day. It was just such a
double denim's back fit. You were right.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
You were ahead of your time.
Just before we end the show, can we ask you, where do we get the tickets from for Bay Tales?
You can go on Whitley Bay Playhouse's website, but you will pay booking charges. If you want to email us, baytales, all one word, 20@gmail.com, we can get you the cheapest tickets possible, but without sacrificing the seats.
Well, if you look down now, you will see that email address across the screen.
And probably actually just worth saying, because we have been asked a couple of times, it's an all-day ticket. We're not doing individual sessions, really just because this sounds, there's so much to pack in. We haven't got time to get people in and out. You will have time for a break and a drink and coffee and visit the bound bookshop and so on. But it's £30 for the entire day. So that's 6 sessions, plus all the little extras that are dotted around the place. So we really try to keep the price as low as we can.
It's amazing.
And for anyone who is having to travel, who isn't familiar with the Northeast, we're on the East Coast Main Line. So you would literally, if you got on at London, you would stay on the train to Newcastle, and then it's a 20-minute different train journey on the metro to Whitley Bay. It's dead easy to get to.
And the taxis are so cheap up here.
They are.
And £30, that's an absolute bargain, because it's going to be such a brilliant day, jam-packed full of amazing guests, and I'm sure it's going to be hugely successful. And we can't wait, can we, Lauren?
Very excited.
We're really looking forward to showing you guys around and show some of the sites. So
it'll be great. Yeah. Well, very sadly, that's all we've got time for now. And we just want to thank you both for coming on and telling us all about, your Bay Tales and the fabulous event in Whitley Bay on February the 12th. And as Lauren said, the the email will be at the bottom of the screen, and we'll have it on our podcast when the episode goes live. So it'll all be there, information, and I think that's it, isn't it? For series, is that series 4? We finished.
Series
now?
4 done.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Done.
Now you can relax for Christmas.
I still feel like an overexcited 5-year-old when I have to do my talking bits, especially if I read the bios for people. I get very nervous then and trip over my words. You might not notice, Leslie, but anytime I'm doing the planning, I always give you to read the bio.
I noticed that actually, but I thought it was just we took it in turns. But...
No, I just make you do it as much as possible because I get so nervous.
It did make me laugh when you introduced Emma Christie and she had been to all these amazing places, and you were struggling with pronouncing.
I really struggled to pronounce it all, and it was a really big one, wasn't it? So yeah,
it really was.
I do struggle with the bios, but yes.
Can I just say that I wasn't being a complete Christmas Grinch here? Because I did actually put a Christmas sweatshirt
1988,
yes.
It's my Die Hard tribute sweatshirt. And if that's not Christmas enough,
what we're seeing now,
double denimed and gone for my It's a Wonderful Life Bedford Falls.
Oh, lovely.
So, I did make the effort. It's just all below the waist, as it were.
That's it.
So that's it for today, for our Christmas special and for series 4. But we're only having a short break, aren't we, Lauren? I think we're back. What day are we back? I can't remember exactly.
Don't know the date.
Sometime in January.
Early in January.
Sometime in January with some amazing guests, and we'll be putting all of that on our Twitter account soon. So don't forget to follow us on Twitter if you don't already. At In Suspense Pod. I think so.
It's my mind's blank.
And
what's your Twitter handle? At Baytails Live, is it?
Bay_Tails.
Oh, that really trips off the tongue, doesn't it? At Bay.
It does, doesn't it, just?
Right. Yes, so that just leaves us then with the final task of saying goodbye from Simon, goodbye from Vic, and goodbye from myself.
And it's goodbye from those 3.